After more than 40 years of existence, Venom has collected a large number of offspring within the comics. As a matter of curiosity, the Clintar race reproduces asexually, so they don't need partners and often do so as a defense mechanism. Thanks to this, today we have a complete video about all 9 of Venom's offspring in the 616 universe. Starting with Carnage. This is Venom's first offspring and certainly his most successful creation. Also the one who surpassed his father in strength and danger to Earth. After a battle with Styx where the Venom symbiote was presumed dead, its former host Eddie Brock was incarcerated in a prison for normal humans. His cellmate was Cletus Cassidy, a psychotic killer serving 11 consecutive life sentences at Rikers Island. However, the Venom symbiote wasn't dead, only incapacitated for a time, and after recovering, it sought out Eddie and reconnected with him, setting out to resume its quest for revenge against Spider-Man. But upon leaving the prison cell, it left its offspring behind, and the newborn symbiote sought the nearest available host. It attached itself to Cletus Cassidy, entering his body through a cut on his hand, where it fused with his blood, and thus Carnage was born. The new symbiote was superior to its father in every way, from strength, speed, body manipulation, to even resilience. As it is bonded to Cletus's bloodstream, it is nearly impossible to separate them by force, and it can regenerate even if it appears to be destroyed. It can regenerate from just a few cells, and thanks to the genetic memory of symbiotes, can replicate Spider-Man's abilities even without having bonded with Peter Parker. Like Venom, it is undetectable to spider sense and even to Venom's own heightened senses. After being used as an experiment by Hall Industries, it developed the ability to create duplicates of itself that could be controlled by its main body. On some rare occasions, it is depicted with vampiric abilities, and its touch is caustic to others, making prolonged contact fatal to any unfortunate host within the symbiote's reach. Finally, it lost its vulnerability to sound after coming into contact with the Darkhold and is unaffected by heat as long as it is the one producing the flames. Continuing, in second place, we have Riot. Unlike what was shown in the movies, Riot is a symbiote originating from Venom, though not in the same way as Carnage. To explain this symbiote, it's worth discussing the Life Foundation, which will be an important element in this video. The Life Foundation was an organization that aimed to provide a comfortable life for its wealthy clients in case of a possible Cold War or global chaos. Needing a superhuman police force to protect this utopian future, the Foundation's leader saw the potential to create these future guardians from Venom's descendants. Once the Foundation captured Venom, who was in San Francisco at the time, they took him to their laboratory in the California desert. There, they used a procedure to forcibly extract 5 symbiote seeds from Venom and incubated them in a lab. Too young to control a host, the blue baby symbiote was fused with Trevor Cole, a security officer from the Life Foundation's force, which consisted of police officers, soldiers, and mercenaries. Together, the symbiotes and Cole became known as Riot, and they, along with the other 4 symbiotes, became the guardian symbiotes of the Foundation. He possesses the standard powers of a symbiote, nothing particularly special like his older brother. However, unlike his symbiote siblings, Riot preferred to create large weapons such as hammers and maces from his arms, likely due to Trevor's aggressive mindset. Moving on with the video, Scream was another of the 4 symbiotes created by the Life Foundation from forcibly extracted seeds of Venom, so there's not much to say about her origin. The symbiote was bonded with Donna Diego, codenamed Attack Agent 4, a mercenary who suffers from schizophrenia. Eventually, both the symbiote and the host died, more than once in fact, but one instance in particular deserves attention. After the event, Dr. Steven, one of the heads of the Alchemex company, collected samples obtained from the skin and blood of her host at the time, Andy Benton. When his efforts to revive the symbiote were unsuccessful, Dr. Steven combined its remains with the anti-venom serum, creating a new symbiote, Silence. But I included this just as a curiosity. It doesn't count on the official list of Venom's offspring. As for Scream, she possesses the standard powers of a symbiote, but unlike her siblings, Scream preferred to extend her hair-like tendrils to whip or ensnare her enemies. A notable characteristic of hers is also the ability to manipulate her biomass to form wings, something all symbiotes can do, but she does more frequently. It's also worth mentioning that she is vulnerable to intense heat, but has shown that she is not harmed by hellfire when she was with Andy Benton. But still on the symbiotes that were forcibly created from Venom, remembering that there are 5 in total and 2 are still left, we have Agony. The purple symbiote was bonded to Leslie Gesnaria, a security officer from the Life Foundation. Just like what happened with Scream, Agony, or at least part of her, was manipulated by Alchemax geneticists. This part was fused with other strains of Venom's other offspring, along with strains of Toxin, Venom's grandson, creating the symbiote Mania in the process. Curiously, experiments were conducted again with a strain of the character, this time being bonded to a brainless cyborg by the Life Foundation. This was to create an obedient super soldier, but the host was later killed by Spider-Man, leaving the symbiote strain to be safeguarded by Alchemax. As far as I know, this combination didn't result in any other symbiote and was left at that. As for her powers, they are the same as those of standard symbiotes, but she has the ability to spit acid through her metabolism. This acid can burn most substances. However, the full extent, limit, and range of her acid projectiles are unknown. It's worth noting that Venom also had acidic saliva for many years, but didn't use it to attack in the same way as Agony. Agony is also capable of absorbing and redistributing chemical substances in different ways, such as regurgitating Spider-Man's artificial webbing. Curiously, this is a unique ability among all the symbiotes created by the Life Foundation. Moving on to another of the Life Foundation symbiotes, Phage was bonded with Karl Mach, a security officer from the Foundation and later linked to Lieutenant Rico Axelson. Despite having a relatively extensive history in the comics, he's not a particularly interesting character compared to other symbiotes. He has the same powers as an average symbiote, but his primary form of attack was transforming his symbiote suit into long, serrated blades. Obviously, he used these to slash or stab his opponents, something very prominent in Carnage and Riot in the movies. It's also worth noting that his sensory perception was enhanced by government experiments on the symbiote's hosts. This granted him telescopic vision, making it easier to shoot a target from miles away with a high-powered firearm. This isn't particularly significant for a symbiote, but when the host is a military operative, it's very useful. Additionally, like Agony, he also has resistance to hellfire. Finally, wrapping up with the Life Foundation symbiotes, we have Lasher, who was bonded with Ramon Hernandez, another member of the company's security force. Curiously, it took quite a while for him to get his own name, only being named after bonding with a war dog while in the possession of the US Army. They managed to do this so easily because he was in an almost catatonic state after being separated from his siblings, who at one point merged in the comics. After mentally recovering, he lost free will with the arrival of Null, so the character spent much of his time not being himself. He has standard symbiote powers, but he preferred to create tentacles on his back, which isn't exactly an original power, but is a unique way of using it. His primary method of attack was forming long whip-like tentacles that acted as limbs to be more effective against opponents, ensnaring enemies and whipping them. The symbiote, after government modification, can connect to the host and a small animal corpse, such as a dog, allowing for long-range attacks. The host controls the corpse through a mimetic mouthpiece, giving orders like move, return, attack, or maim a target. But finally, moving beyond the Life Foundation, Sleeper is Venom's 7th offspring and was the result of an unusual and difficult pregnancy. Concerned that bonding to a host at such a young age would corrupt him into a monster like his siblings, the Venom symbiote and Eddie Brock chose to leave him in the care of Alchemax. He was born under Dr. Steven, the same one I mentioned earlier in the video, and it was in Alchemax's lab that he narrowly escaped being captured and bonded to Scorpion. It may seem random, but Scorpion was once a host of Venom and part of the Dark Avengers, though it's a phase largely forgotten by most. As Sleeper matured, he developed unique abilities that Alchemax wanted to exploit for profit, but Eddie Brock simply intervened and threatened the organization's leaders. When the Venom symbiote refused to return to its original host, the Kree soldier Telkar, he took the Sleeper symbiote hostage and threatened to bond with and corrupt him unless Venom complied. Angered by the loss of his father, the symbiote used his abilities to interfere with Eddie's thoughts and proposed bonding with him to save Venom. In the end, Venom was saved, reunited with Eddie Brock, and Sleeper himself bonded with Telkar, lobotomizing him to gain full control over his body before later setting off to explore the cosmos. The reason Sleeper is so valuable is due to his chemokinesis, the ability to produce liquid and aerosol chemicals with a variety of effects. This includes inducing various emotional states, tranquilizing targets, psychological manipulation, and secreting corrosive chemicals to attack opponents. This also gives him a camouflage ability superior to other symbiotes, generating pheromones to almost completely mask his presence. He can also use chemokinesis as a means of rocket propulsion, allowing him to traverse space and produce acid. He also has one of the greatest camouflage powers among all symbiotes, manipulating ambient light to become invisible. This, combined with his hormonal abilities, allows him to confuse the sensory systems of others, making him the perfect predator. He also possesses visual senses far above the average for symbiotes and can manipulate his mass to create functional copies of himself, making him one of the most powerful symbiotes in existence.
But moving forward, curiously, Silver is a child of Venom who in theory shouldn't even exist, as Venom develops sterility after producing Sleeper. His story is quite short and happened when Venom spawned him while trying to rescue an Alchemax employee kidnapped by a man named Nobody. At the same time, Black Widow was investigating this employee when she encountered the symbiote, and they bonded. They initially struggled to work together but reached an agreement and formed a good team until they separated during a mission, and Silver was killed by Anti-Venom. Along with the traditional powers of the race, this symbiote can absorb the memories of others by consuming their brains, allowing him and his host to know what kind of person their victims were and perfectly mimic them. He also had the ability to transform his mass into a swarm of spiders that are indistinguishable from real Black Widow spiders. With this set of unique powers, it's truly a shame that he didn't get much development.
And to wrap up, Dylan Brock is the son of Eddie Brock, Anne Wang, and the Venom symbiote, created by the symbiote hive to destroy Null. It turns out that this whole situation traumatized Anne, and she abandoned Dylan with his grandfather Carl and took her own life shortly after. Dylan grew up believing Carl was his father and suffered abuse, taking some time to reunite with Eddie, his real father. When this happened, Dylan fell into a coma after a vision of Null, and Eddie realized he was his son, protecting him but without revealing he was his father. When Carnage threatened Dylan, Eddie killed the villain, freeing the god of symbiotes, which required the union of all of Earth's heroes to stop him, with Dylan being essential in his defeat. Later, he discovered his origins as a hybrid, and after conflicts with Eddie and a time loop, assumed the identity of Codex, seeking revenge against his father but ending up without the Venom symbiote, determined to reclaim it. Dylan outwardly appears to be a normal human boy, but he is actually a piece of the Venom symbiote incarnated in human form. He was initially unable to consciously control his powers, which would activate instinctively in moments of extreme stress. But with practice and instruction from Null, Dylan eventually became capable of using them consciously. According to Reed Richards' analysis, Dylan's powers do not derive from Null, but from his opposite, the god of light. The boy is capable of sensing symbiotes, and when his powers are activated, he can forcibly repel symbiotes attempting to bond with him. He can control them against their will and is also capable of easily killing symbiotes that threaten his life. An interesting power is his ability to control symbiotes remotely by accessing the collective mind of the race, something only Null was previously capable of doing. Due to his hybrid status, whenever Dylan bonds with a symbiote, he not only severs its connection to the hive, but also rapidly initiates an evolutionary process that makes the symbiote stronger and different.
And it's this character who wraps up today's video. And if you enjoyed learning more about Venom's offspring, you know what to do. Leave a like down below. Send it to that friend of yours who doesn't know anything about comics, and help the channel keep growing. Thanks, and see you next time.